In this video, we're going to talk about how we do experiment setup at Faith, and just highlight or to note that this is only how we do it at Faith. Wherever you go, they might do A/B setup differently. So the tools I'm going to show you, you might be using different ones, but I think in essence, the setup is always the same. And in the previous video, I was explaining that our setup is a combination of what is called Firebase and CleverTab. We use Firebase to basically define our audiences. So we integrate Firebase with our app. So it has all the information about how many people are on our app, what are the email addresses, etc. So every user who logs in and registers with our app, we create a profile on Firebase for them. What we also do within Firebase is define experiment keys. So basically, we define values that are then added to the audiences. So every profile then has these experiment keys. So if you want to roll out an A/B experiment, we're just going to define the experiment key A and experiment key B. And then we could, for example, say 50% of our audience gets key A and 50% of our audience gets key B. And what happens then on our app is that this information is then exposed to our app developers, because since we integrated Firebase, we then know whenever someone launches the app, the code can trigger certain experiences based on which experiment key the user has. That's how we basically define how an experiment or how a specific feature is rolled out to our group A or group B. And then the last thing that we do in Firebase is basically hit the rollout button. So once we want to start the experiment, then we click a button, and only then all of those keys get triggered for our audiences. Firebase also gives us some basic information, analytical information about the effectivity of our experiment and which version is basically winning, but the data is usually not very rich. So that's why we combine it with CleverTab. So we analyze our experiment performance within CleverTab, because the experiment keys that we roll out in Firebase, we also integrate those in CleverTab. So every user also has a profile on CleverTab, and they have user attributes where we will see the experiment key. So we can create segments and analyze those segments and their user actions, and we can basically create reports and dashboards based on what the user did. And what's the most exciting, I'm going to show you what it actually looks like in those tools. So I'm going to fire up Firebase and CleverTab now, so you have a little bit of understanding of how it looks like. And the reason for that is, while you won't be the one actually implementing the A/B test, it helps understanding in order to explain to your engineers, to explain to your developers what they need to do if you want when you want to do an A/B test. And if you don't have an A/B testing setup, you can recommend using Firebase and whatever product analytics tool you have.